You are now live.
Thank you, and welcome everyone to the Cultural Hub Task Force meeting on Wednesday, June the 16th. Attendance has been taken by the clerk, and we're just going to go over a few rules of procedure. I'd like to remind the task force and our viewing public of a few procedural rules for our virtual meetings in operating as efficiently as possible. All members will be muted for the meeting to reduce feedback. All web cameras for task force members shall be turned on to ensure and track quorum. Staff will be requested to join the video meeting should the need to answer questions of members arise. Any member of the task force should indicate they wish to speak by pressing the raise hand button on the participant list screen, which is in the bottom center of your screen there usually. In the event a connection service interruption occurs that affects quorum of the task force, we may recess the meeting for up to 15 minutes to regain quorum. If quorum is not achieved, the meeting will be adjourned. All meetings participating on via online video conference will vote using a show of hands, and the chair will announce the voting results. So just a show of physical hands. Meetings of the public who registered as delegates are now able to take part electronically via webcam and via the telephone for the meetings. All rules for delegations under the city's procedural bylaw continue to apply. Members of the task force, we're now on to declarations of conflict of interest. Does anyone have a pecuniary interest that they'd like to declare? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to, Jan. Sorry, Councillor Vanderstelt. The virtual hand gets lost sometimes.
Yeah, I tried the first hand, but it didn't really work too well. I have three, I don't know how you want to handle this, Madam Chair. People may have questions about the fact that I am a professional artist. I don't have any conflicts, although there are three possible ways in which people may perceive I have a conflict of interest. I'll leave it to your good offices to give me direction. Should I make it very clear why I do not have a conflict of interest in three separate cases, or are you okay with me just saying I don't have a conflict?
Well, Councillor Vanderstelt, you are the only one who can declare a conflict on yourself. So if you are comfortable with not having a conflict, then we can move on with that.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will move on to delegations. Members of the task force, we have two delegations today, and the city's procedural bylaw allows for delegates to have 10 minutes each to present, and that's inclusive of questions. Given the nature of the item in which these delegates are speaking, it may be necessary to allow the delegates an additional 10 minutes to speak, which would give each delegate 20 minutes. This would require a motion to waive the rules as well as 2/3 vote on the item. So what we're asking is, Sarah, are you moving? Oh, Sarah's moving to, okay, so I'm going to read what the motion is. The motion is that section 15.6.2 of the City of Brantford's procedural bylaw be waived to allow delegates to have an additional 10 minutes each to present. So we've got a mover. That was Sarah. Is anyone seconding that? That's Lorna. Thank you. All right. Are there any discussions on the motion to waive the rules? All right, seeing none, I will call the vote. And this requires 2/3. All in favor? And that carries you unanimously. Yeah, physically, Martin, physical hand for these ones, and virtual hand for speaking opportunities. Thank you. Okay, so now we can move on to the delegations, and in keeping with the City of Brantford's procedural bylaw section 15.6.2, please ensure all comments are directly related to the matter before the task force. And so first we have Anna Olson from the Glenhurst Art Gallery. Hi, Anna.
Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? Thank you
for having me today. I didn't put together a formal presentation for today's meeting because I felt that it's been a year since we've presented our proposal, and I think everybody's had ample time to peruse our presentation and our business plan and had lots of opportunity to think about what the options are with this plan. So I didn't want to dive too deep because I know everybody, this has been discussed at previous meetings, and what I wanted to do is open up the possibility of any further questions that you have about our proposal. Obviously, Glenhurst is still committed to moving forward with the plan that we presented. I know that lots has changed in the last year since we presented the proposal last January, but we still feel like we are in a position to move forward with this plan if the City of Brantford believes that it's something that they can do. I did want to say that I think that this proposal, it was funny, I haven't looked at it in a very, very long time, and I printed it off here at home last night and went through it, and I gave myself a pat on the back. It was a damn good proposal. And I think it's really great for Brantford. I think something like this, a site like this on the river that would be available to the general public, as well as support our performing arts and our visual arts, is really an important part of what Brantford has to offer. And I think that diversifying Brantford for the arts is an important part of the plan long term. That, you know, we are a sports town, we have been for a long time. That's not going to change, but the demographics that are moving into our city are different. They're demanding different things, and they're demanding diversity, and this is an area that I think that there is a keen interest in. So I think that bringing these types of sites to the community is important. Now, having said that, I know that the city has done their part in investigating this proposal, and that staff has come forward with some significant issues that they deem are problematic for developing this site. And I just want to say that, I mean, I'm obviously in no position to deem their findings, you know, not substantiated, because that's absolutely not true. But I do believe that if the will of the council is to move forward with a site like this, none of these issues that were presented by staff, I believe, are insurmountable. They are issues that are very common with building anything along a body of water. So obviously GRCA has to be considered, archaeological has to be considered, the deed has to be considered. But I believe that all of these things are things that are either A, going to be issues with any build, B, going to be issues with any build on the water, or C, any issues with a build with a piece of land that's been bestowed to the community and bestowed to the city. So, but I do believe that none of those things are things that cannot be, with the right will and the will of the council, that there are things that can be done to make those things, it is achievable if the will is there. Lastly, I do want to say that in the last few months, there's been new proposals put on the table around this idea of a cultural space, and that, you know, fast forward a year from when we put forward the proposal, the idea of a museum being part of this particular proposal was not considered because it was not really something that was brought forward at the time of this initial proposal. I will say that if City Council decides that in the future that there is a need for a museum space, I believe that this proposal can be adapted to accommodate that. This is a very large space with multiple subspaces. Obviously, the performing arts was the priority, as was the scope of this project, but there were other spaces that were to be used for summer camps and other facilities. So if the city decided that one of those spaces would be better serving the community with a museum, then that's something that obviously can be discussed. Lastly, I want to say that Heidi and I have worked together for many years, and the Laurier is an amazing institution that has done critical work for the city of Brantford. And regardless of what proposal, if any, are chosen today or in the future, Laurier and Glenhurst will continue to work together, and they will support us and we will support them in whatever end result happens and whatever decision City Council makes. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I know that they have a great proposal as well, and we will work together with them to make sure that arts and culture gets the best result at the end of this. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Anna. And before we go to questions, something that I wanted to bring up, because I suspect it will come up through this meeting, and I've paused the time on this. Just keeping in mind today, folks, that the only thing on the table is what the Cultural Task Force is mandated to do. So we're looking only at these proposals. I know that there is some concern about another motion that's out there by council, but that's under a different body and it is deferred at this point. So nothing happening there will fetter what you do here today. So we just have to make sure that we keep on track with that. And so I just want to put that up front because I suspect that that's probably weighing on some minds. Having said that, are there any questions for Anna? And if you do, please use your virtual hand and I will watch for those. No questions? Oh, there, Councillor Sless's hand's gone up. Go ahead, Councillor.
It's not a question, really. It's a statement, Madam Chair, if that's acceptable to you. I'd just like to thank Anna. You've put a lot of time into this, and it's really appreciated by the committee. Again, I don't know where this is all going. I don't know whether it's the proposal will opt in or out as far as Glenhurst is concerned. But I know you've put a lot of time. You've toured us through the site. You've done a number of things to present the best foot you could forward with Glenhurst, and that's appreciated because I know it took a lot of time out of regular duties. And so just on that, I would like to say thank you. Thanks, Madam Chair, for your generous leeway.
You're welcome, Councillor. All right, I don't see any other hands up. Thank you, Anna, for that. Next, we have Heidi Northwood, and I believe Heidi has someone coming with her. I'm sorry, was it Ian? I don't have it here. But if you'd like to come forward, we'd love to hear your proposal. We have the same thing. It's 20 minutes inclusive of questions. Cameron, sorry, Cameron. Welcome. And we're just waiting for Heidi to come in. All right, whenever you are ready, go ahead. Thank you.
Great. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present our proposal today. We've worked hard over the past 5-6 months, building upon the work that the community has done, this task force has done, Glenhurst has done, the arts ecology groups have done, to come up with something that we think is perhaps a first step to some of those larger goals that Anna has mentioned in her proposal. And so I'm going to pass the reins over to Cameron Maxwell. He is a Laurier alum who runs an innovation consultancy, and we've been working very closely with Cameron over the past almost 2 years now. I'd say maybe even more than that. It's hard to tell with time with the pandemic, but he has really helped us in thinking through some of the business ideas for One Market and beyond on campus in the downtown of Brantford for Laurier. So I will pass it over to Cameron now then to give the presentation, and I will be available to answer questions at the end. So Cameron.
Thanks, Heidi. And thanks everyone for the chance to present Laurier's proposal for a cultural hub in downtown Brantford. I think regardless of the choice that's made at the end, the prospect of expanding the arts ecosystem in Brantford is a really exciting one. I hope you've all had a chance to read the proposal that we submitted. So today I'm just going to go through kind of a high-level summary of some of the key points, and to try to keep the time, if we could just make a note of any questions that you have, and we can answer those at the end if that works for everybody. So I will start with Laurier's vision for the Cultural Hub on the next slide. So the vision is to play a key role in the building of Brantford's arts ecosystem by creating a vibrant cultural hub in one market. This hub will offer a diverse range of live programming and film that is accessible to all, and with community partners and relationships, support Brantford's journey to become a destination for creativity and the arts. Next slide. So as you all know, Laurier has been a kind of a major partner in Brantford for quite a while, for 22 years. And if we go back to 1999, it opened its campus with 39 students, and today has almost 3,000 students, or approximately 3,000 students, and 20 buildings in the downtown core. The Brantford campus has directly stimulated over $100 million in building activity downtown. I'm sure you're all aware, in 2014, Laurier purchased the Market Square building, which is currently being transformed into new academic, cultural, and service spaces. And I think really importantly, the university's presence is frequently cited by businesses as a reason they find downtown Brantford an attractive place to locate. Next slide, please. And that's why we feel downtown is an ideal location for a cultural hub. Since 2008, and really driven by the downtown master plan, Brantford's downtown has been transformed and continues to evolve. The 2019 mid-sized performance space feasibility study, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with, found unanimous desire for more medium-sized arts and cultural venues. And really centralizing hospitality and entertainment businesses can increase local engagement and customer footfall, and having that kind of centralized downtown core is a great place for that. It kind of enables that. We've already got quite a few restaurants and kind of space for those kind of elements of a cultural hub that are really important. And a new space for performances and events would really enhance what exists today. We're not saying that there's not amazing things happening in Brantford. There are. I think, if you look at some of the events at the Sanderson Center, at Glenhurst, at Harmony Square, there's all kinds of great things happening there. And we really feel that a smaller venue that kind of fits in the downtown core would really add to that, add to all these amazing things that are going on. And this is really backed up by a 2015 Art Fund UK research study, which found that when it comes to cultural hubs, visitors expect ideally two, they make it quite clear, two high quality venues which act as the main draw. And then that enables kind of secondary venues, which are restaurants, retail, kind of iconic buildings to photograph, street art, all these other things become a kind of a key destination, as we said, a destination for creativity, a reason to spend a significant amount of time in a place. And people talk often about dwell time, but it's really a reason to go somewhere and spend a longer amount of time there. And I think this kind of approach really would enable that. And we look at who would benefit from this cultural hub. We've got 25 theater groups in Brantford and the surrounding areas, and 33 dance studios who are, really crying out for a space of this size that is really more fit for purpose for some of the smaller types of productions and things that are happening that maybe don't fit in such a large venue as the Sanderson Center. And we've also got all these restaurants that would really benefit from more footfall and just people moving to the area that are looking for a more kind of exciting area and a place to spend time. And we had a chance going through this process over the past 5-6 months and putting this together to speak to a number of these groups and dance studios and kind of this sort of unanimous enthusiasm for this idea of kind of locating downtown and offering them something that will allow them to kind of realize a lot of their projects. So next slide. So what we're proposing is a mid-sized performance space, cinema, and gallery. And the way we would achieve this is by repurposing the 3 existing movie theaters in one market to create a 250-seat performance space with a stage measuring 40 feet wide by 32 feet deep and a revitalized 100-seat art house movie theater space. And so the daily film showings and kind of standard rental of the performance space would generate the needed revenue to then offer a subsidized, approximately $500 per day rental fee for local community productions to really make it easy for them to kind of realize the different projects that they're working on and do that in an affordable way. And to kind of cater to the additional space needs and just generally make it a more of a cultural hub and more of a destination. We're also proposing that in one market, there's a white cube gallery created, and this could cater to preview and opening night events, potentially film festivals, and just generally be repurposed in terms of space that could be used for different things that would be needed as part of catering to things like dance studios and that sort of thing. And we spoke to a number of kind of local business owners and people in the creative arts community, and none have been more helpful than Sally Dawson, the owner of Carol Kitchen's Dance Center, who gave quite a bit of time and effort to kind of help us shape this thinking. And in her mind, she's thought for a long time that a second theater is really essential. It would really help her business and businesses like hers thrive and continue to grow in the future, which would be just amazing. Next slide, please. And so the Creative City Network of Canada quite astutely pointed out, I think, that arts and culture make considerable and necessary contributions to the well-beings of communities. They are a means of public dialogues, contribute to the development of community creative learning, create healthy communities capable of action, provide a powerful tool for community mobilization and activism, and help build community capacity and leadership. All of these things I think are very admirable, important, and can be built upon in Brantford. I know a lot of it does exist today, and a space like this would just kind of take it to the next level, which would be amazing. Next slide, please. And throughout this process, I think Laurier has taken a very collaborative approach to this and sees this as very much a collaborative future of how this comes together. Here are some of the kind of institutions and businesses that we spoke to and interacted with as part of this process of developing the proposal, and very much strong desire to collaborate with Laurier on this initiative. And with almost 20,000 students across multiple communities, the level of services that the university manages and venues that they have experience managing, I think really is key to ensuring that the cultural hub is a success. Laurier is really in a good position to kind of manage that and help support that. Next slide, please. So I'll summarize with some of the key benefits that we feel across the city, the community, and benefits to Laurier. So in terms of benefits to the city, repurposing space in one market is a cost-effective and sustainable way of going about this. The approach is aligned with the Downtown Master Plan's vision of bringing new residents and students and activity to Brantford. Creating a unique destination in one market will support local economic development and increase foot traffic for local businesses. In terms of benefits to the community, the proposal offers professional, affordable, fit-for-purpose venues for artists and event programmers. A secondary venue will create synergies with the Sanderson Center and Harmony Square. And offering films, free exhibitions, live performances ensures that there's art for everyone, regardless of budget, which I think is a really important point. And local producers and artists can pool resources, content, and marketing to really drive efficiencies. I think that's missing, and this could help to kind of spur that on to make it easier for them to kind of promote their projects. In terms of benefits to Laurier, the proposed venues would add a cultural asset to one market, forming a linchpin for future concepts like the street food market, which I imagine you saw in the proposal, in the full proposal. It enables the university to support both the community and Laurier students, and helps the university attract more students to Brantford in the future, aligning to the university's growth ambitions. The final slide, the next slide. So the university is looking for support from the city to take this proposal forward in a two-phased approach. Phase one is a capital planning financial contribution. The university is looking for $150,000 of funding support from the city for a capital planning financial contribution to retain an architecture firm specializing in theater renovations to complete a planning and renovation assessment. Now, Laurier's internal team has done an assessment of the space, but would like a group that focuses on these types of specific renovations to ensure that no stone is left unturned and everything's completely understood. But based on that initial internal assessment of the theater space and proposed renovations, this outlined a potential cost range of between $5 and $10 million, depending on structural requirements, the equipment fixtures selected. But the phase 1 planning process would identify this exact figure and for the renovation and fit out. So I'll close by just actually thanking all of the people that we spoke to as part of this process that really helped kind of shape this thinking. And, there were a number of groups that dedicated quite a bit of time to helping us really understand the Brantford arts ecosystem. And I think the fact that they gave that much time and effort really demonstrates, their level of enthusiasm for this proposed approach. And I think they're very excited about the potential of this idea. So thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you all listening to me, and I'll open the floor to questions.
Thank you both, Heidi and Cameron. All right, so we have some hands going up here for questions. We do have time. Councillor Sless, and if we could keep it to questions here, we can debate this issue after. Let's just do questions for the delegation, please. Councillor Sless.
Absolutely. That's how it should be run, Madam Chair. The $10 to $15 million you're suggesting would be the cost depending on the model accepted. Do you have secure funding for that? Or is that something that's got to be applied for with the hope of getting it? Or do you have any type of assurances that you would get it should you move forward? Can you explain, I guess, the model around your financing?
Yes, I would be happy to do so. At this point, no, we do not have, because we don't know how much it will be. We don't have, it's early days. We do not have funds secured, but what we hope is that once this plan, that is the result of the professionalized architectural firm putting forward something, that we can actually work with community, with the city, and to apply for funds. So this is not something that we're asking. I don't see it actually as asking for a particular, like the full amount from the city or anything like that long term. It's more about working in partnership, because when you have that kind of partnership between city and an institution like Laurier, there are possibilities for applying for funds, philanthropic activities as well that can lead us to being successful in the goal for raising the funds that are required. I hope that answers your question.
Half of it does. If
Okay.
you could just elaborate a little further. So it sounds to me like you would anticipate that the city being a funding partner in the $5 to $10 million capital. Is that correct?
Well, I think it's yet to be determined, but yes, I think the idea is that when we know exactly what we're talking about with regard to the planning and the costs, at that point, I think then the task becomes identifying the sources of income, sources of funding from various levels of government, philanthropic activities, whether it's Laurier I expect Laurier would make a contribution, but that's, early days about that too. And whether or not the city also wants to make a contribution with regard to capital improvements, that's something that obviously is down the road. But that's the way I'm seeing it right now, is that in fact, with this partnership, if we proceed with this particular proposal, there will be avenues and doors that can be opened that couldn't be opened on our own.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Sless. Next, we have Councillor Wall.
Yeah, sorry, my only question was, where did the number of $500 a day come from for the rental?
Excellent question, Councillor Wall. So we did some consultation with community, and that number was suggested as something that could be palatable, but it still may be on the high side, and we understand that. That's why we put in very clearly approximately 500 a day, because that is what, with our pro forma business plan that has been developed so far, That's how we can make the whole project sustainable. If you put in the movie theaters and the revenue that we would get from our partnerships with the dance recitals and competitions, that would allow us to subsidize a certain number of days, for example, at a rate something like 500. If that turns out to be too high for the arts community organizations, we're open to talk about that, right? There's lots of different possibilities that are still could be explored to reduce that, or perhaps a certain number of days could be reduced. We're open. This is what I'm trying. I'm trying to express clearly. We're open to actually conversations about a price point if 500 isn't going to do it. 500 though does make sense from us financially, from that level of financial analysis and business analysis that we've done to date.
What experience does Laurier have in operating something like this?
You have. It's not in Brantford, but the Marine Forester arts performance space up in Waterloo is a venue that is somewhat similar to what we're proposing in the downtown. The other thing that we have, which might not be always visible, but a university has a huge ancillary business department, which runs our residence halls, which runs our food services, or is responsible for all of those contracts. There's a huge business development side to the university that isn't always, up front and center. So we actually have quite a bit of expertise in making sure that the kinds of management and the kind of governance structures really that would make this possible, especially given the kind of community input that is absolutely required in this kind of project, that would be in fact front and center for those sorts of decisions and that kind of operations.
I want to be cognitive of time. It's part of the 20-minute presentation, right? Councillor Antosky?
It is, Councillor, and I have 3 more speakers,
Yeah.
which even though we're going to be going over time, I want them to be able to speak.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So having said that, folks, we've got 3 more speakers. We've got Martin, Councillor Vanderstel, and Mayor Davis. If we can keep things as succinct as possible. We are over time, but I think it's important to make sure that people have a chance to ask their questions. Go ahead, Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question ties in a bit with what Councillor Wall was asking. Well, how many of these days do you envision within a calendar year for the subsidized rentals?
That actually is a question that I would put back to the community. What is the need? Right now, we have earmarked March through July as the period where the dance competitions would have primary access to the space, simply because that's when their season is. Beyond that, we are very open to working with community and what the needs are to find out a plan that would work for all. One thing I will say is that I know there's been a question in the background with some of the people we've spoken to over the past months as to what exactly is there any priority given to Laurier events? And I can answer no. They would actually be part of the queue, just like all other community members, and in fact would also have to pay a rate the same as community. So there is no priority given to Laurier events.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vanderstel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Heidi and Cameron. This sounds wonderful. Heidi, in your delivery, you mentioned that working with the city of Brantford may stand us in better stead for philanthropic interests or perhaps additional funding from other sources. Would we stand a better chance working with people like Anna and Anna's group en masse? Would we stand better chance of getting additional funding from other sources if we include all of those community partners?
I don't know a definitive answer to that question, but I would love to work with Glenhurst and the city Laurier, 3 partners trying to make this happen. The idea of actually having this be a first step towards a larger vision that perhaps is realizable in 10 years with or whatever, pick your timeline, right? Where there is something that actually complements what is built through the community building that could happen with a smaller venue like what we're proposing in One Market, that could lead to something larger, like a Glenhurst site. That would be fantastic. I think the overall goal is to be building arts in the community, right? So if we could actually do that as a trio, I'm all for it.
Okay, and has your professional experience borne that out, that with more community partners, you stand more of a chance of getting more funding for more customers? Essentially, there's a lot of customers, so that's what I'm hoping to find out.
That's my experience, although my experience is somewhat limited, but yes, usually the more partners, the better. And in fact, I would love to see more partners than the 3 to put this.
Okay, thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I am going to exercise my right to let Rick ask some questions because the mayor has changed his mind. So Rick, you owe the mayor a thank you for this time.
Thank you, Mayor Davis, and thank you, Councillor Antosky. Just a very practical question around the layout that's in your proposal. Are you looking at any space beyond what's shown in the sort of partial diagram? I'm thinking backstage in particular. There's not a lot of space in this particular diagram that has change rooms and prop storage and all that other kind of stuff. So I'm just wondering from a space allocation point of view, how that's been considered in your design.
Fantastic question. Yes. So part of the creativity that went behind identifying the idea of a space somewhere else in One Market for the White Cube Art Gallery is to see that space is transformable, or at least partitionable, I should say. That part of it would be, especially for dance competitions, a space for the dancers to change, to have that be part of it. Given the layout of the 3 movie theaters, there cannot be a lot of backstage, but that's why we've tried to work with the proposed configuration so that there is some, but then there would be another place identified nearby outside, which could serve as that space.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone. Thank you, Heidi and Cameron, for your presentation, and thank you everyone for your questions and allowing that little bit of liberation to go a little over time. So we're on to items for consideration, which is 4.1, proposals received from Glenhurst Art Gallery of Brant and Wilfrid Laurier University. And we've now got Sarah, who will provide an overview of the overall report.
Thank you, Councillor Antosky. My name is Sarah Monroe. I'm the Manager of Tourism, Culture and Sport for the City of Brantford. So I can do a bit of an introduction to this report. Really, it's the 2 proposals in front of you that you are looking at today. So although the Sanderson Centre is absolutely the crown jewel of Brantford, for a lot of performing arts organizations, it's simply too large and too costly, especially when they are emerging organizations. This means there's limited space to nurture growth, and we know that performing arts groups are working with incredibly inadequate facilities. At this time, the recommendation from staff on the floor aligns with good practice related to task forces. So the task force's mandate is twofold. It is to determine the feasibility for a mid-sized performance space in Brantford, as well as identify a location. Through research and consultations, findings showed that there's a significant demand and support for a mid-sized performance space, both from a presenter and an audience perspective, and that Brantford is very much alone among its similar-sized Ontario municipalities in not having this type of space. The feasibility study that we conducted also concluded that a mid-sized performance space would really benefit from complementary services such as a fine art gallery space and food services, both are which are included in the 2 proposals in front of you. The final component of that mandate is to determine a location for the mid-sized performance space, or what is now being referred to as a cultural hub. You have 2 proposals in front of you today that both identify a physical location and a model by which this would be operated. Essentially today, we're asking the task force to choose one of the 2 proposals and direct staff to move forward with one of the organizations. If one of those proposals is chosen, you would need an amendment to the motion on the floor to essentially fill in the blank space in the existing motion. Having then fully achieved that twofold mandate, staff recommends that this task force disbands. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And before we go on to speaking opportunities, I need a mover to put this on the floor. Councillor Wall, thank you. And a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Sless. That's a seconder. All right, so we have the motion on the floor. Possibly, Melanie, can you put it up on the screen just so everyone can take a look at it? And just to the task force, this is the motion that we are voting on. Keep in mind that you can accept it as it is, you can separate, you can amend, you can defer. There are lots of different options, and we've got Melanie here to help us on any of those procedural pieces if there are questions from the task force regarding that. So the motion is that that staff report 2021-448 regarding proposals received from Glenhurst Art Gallery of Brant and Wilfrid Laurier University be received, and B, that the Cultural Hub Task Force recommends the blank proposal for adoption for council as the Cultural Hub in Brantford, and that staff be directed to provide a report to Committee of the Whole on the execution steps needed for establishment of this cultural hub, and C, that having achieved their mandate and received this report as their final report, that then the Cultural Hub Task Force be disbanded. So that is what we are speaking to, and we each have 2 opportunities to speak, and I've got Councillor Wall on the list right now.
Thank you, Chair Antosky. And might I say you're doing a great job. Okay. So I don't know, this is just what I think as a member of this committee and somebody who's been following this for a really long time. I think we have really 2 incredible proposals before us, and we never did ask Anna and her team during our opportunity to question them, but when we questioned Laurier about it, it seemed like there was an appetite where we could pursue both of these projects, or we could pursue something where those 2 are working together. And honestly, I don't think we have enough data to make a decision at this meeting. So, I mean, I'm not proposing anything right now. I might take a second speaking opportunity, but I would welcome an opportunity for those 2 groups to communicate with one another, perhaps look at some sort of combined proposal where we pursue both avenues, moving forward with something absolutely for sure, and basically deferring or referring this and meeting next month to make an ultimate decision on an A, B, C, or even a potential D. I think a lot of hard work has gone into this, not just from committee members, but from the people who are making the proposals. I think there's still an opportunity to reach out to some more theater groups now that we have these 2 proposals before us. And honestly, I just think that there's an opportunity for us to walk down both roads at the same time, because we're all going in the same direction. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Councillor Wall. Councillor Sless.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I appreciate Councillor Wall's enthusiasm. The city is going to be paying the majority of the bill, I would think, on either one of these builds. And if you put the 2 together, that's a whopping bill. So I would really caution about trying to approve 2 at the same time and moving forward with 2, because it's going to be fun getting 1 through a budget process, let alone 2. So I think I would be cautioned that way. What I heard from Laurier was the focus, at least it sounded to me like the big focus was dance. They blocked out 3 months of the year. While it does fit in, I guess, with the season of the dance competitions, it was first and foremost that be carved out and that be given to those folks. When I heard from the Glenhurst people a long time ago, a year ago, whenever they first came through, that sounded more like the theater presentations. The plays, the theater groups within the city, as opposed to, I never heard the word dance group once during that whole conversation with Glenhurst. So it seems like one has one vision, one has the other vision. Now, maybe they can blend those 2 together. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure when we're trying to fundraise and it's a city-led thing, that's a pretty tough sled to pull. People think that their property taxes should be paying for things and they shouldn't have to be donating to build city things. At least that's my impression of the public. They don't like kicking in money on top of money they've already paid, and that's exactly what we'd be doing. So I'm not sure how the fundraising thing would go if the city is one of the major funding partners. People would be looking at the city to simply do that, not to come knocking on my door for even more money. Once is enough. So I'm not sure how all that works. I'm interested to hear the conversation go further. I think everybody in the task force heard that we should be merging with another, forming another task force, and therefore doing something different than we're doing right now. I think the chair mentioned that at the beginning of the meeting, and I wouldn't be using that as pressure to move forward, pressure to disband, or pressure to do anything. That's somebody's idea, is all that is, and it's not an approved idea. So let's be focused on what we're doing, not what other people are trying to do. So having said that, I'll listen to the rest of the conversation, and I really don't have a preference one way or the other, and I'd like to hear what other folks have to say, and that will certainly help influence me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Sluss. Right on time. Well, 10 seconds to spare. Lorna, go ahead.
You're muted.
You're muted, Lorna. Lorna, you're muted. If you could start again, please.
One thing that I had been hoping to ask Laurier is what happens to their vision and their idea and what they want to do with Market One on the top floor. What happens to it if it didn't get chosen? Is it kaput, or are they planning to move forward with that as an asset to their university and so forth? Because I get a sense that for community groups, Laurier would sort of be a bit of a part-time venue. The issue was raised about the dance season, March to July, being very heavy for dance. And there's a real overlap there because March, April, May, June is heavy for theater as well. And of course, November, December is heavy for theater. Affordability for the Laurier thing is a really, really big issue, because I know that 500 as a subsidized rate seems to be great for them, but I know for my theater group, that's far, far too much, because even with the rehearsal rate daily dropped to 100, we're looking at doing one weekend as opposed to usually two. And we've got $3,000 just to rent a performance venue and do a tech run and a preview and 3 shows, maybe 4 shows. That's a lot of money because there's all the other stuff. We still have to rent a rehearsal space somewhere, some gym somewhere, and costumes and royalties and all that sort of thing. So having, 3,000 or more just for performance venue rental is a lot, is too much. Also, it's interesting, music wasn't mentioned, and we have community choirs that look for venues and community orchestras and ensembles and so forth. I know the 500 would be too much for them as well. So it's, I think Glenhurst has, in their proposal on how to run it, has had more of an idea of what community groups can actually afford, and therefore how to structure, rental or payment and that sort of thing. Those are my comments at the moment.
Thank you, Lorna. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Wall, second time.
If there are no other speakers, I'll take this opportunity to perhaps move.
Sorry, Councillor Wall, if you can just, give me a moment because Mayor Davis. Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Mayor Davis, have you changed your mind?
Well, if Councillor Wall's going to put something on the floor, then
okay,
just hold out for that.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Wall.
So I said it in my first speaking opportunity, and I'm willing to say it again. Sarah, I'm going to ask you a question. Sarah, are you here as a member or staff? I don't remember now.
Both.
Both.
Okay, do we have to make a decision today?
Absolutely not.
Awesome. Then I move a deferral for one cycle to give both presenters an opportunity to fine tune their presentation based on the comments heard here today, and for an opportunity to present something else or to present something collaborative or to give us an idea. I need more time, and I need to speak to some people outside of this board, my constituents and the organizations in the community, and I'm seeking a seconder for that deferral for at least one cycle.
All right, Lorna is the seconder. Thank you. And speaking to the deferral, Mayor Davis.
I'm going to ask you, wouldn't just hold that, because the things I want to say, I can't really say in a deferral. I thought he was going to fill in the blanks, but instead he's going to defer it. So
I'll hold on my deferral.
Okay, so you're withdrawing your deferral?
Well, just
as long as I have an opportunity to move it.
Oh, okay.
It's fine. I'll withdraw it.
How about we just table it and then you can bring it back?
Yeah.
Let's table that. We'll go to Mayor Davis, and then we've got Councillor Van der Stout. Thank you, Mayor Davis. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, like, where are you coming from, Mr. Davis? Mayor Davis? Well, I'm coming from wanting to have a facility in place. And it's not going to be perfect. It won't meet every group's needs. Some groups may still need to like rehearse or practice out of a church basement. But, you know, coming out of the earlier proceedings in this Cultural Hub Task Force, I think it was pretty clear that the city did not feel it was in the position to basically build and run a minor, a small performing arts center because of the budgetary implications of that. And so we were taking a hard look at Glenhurst because originally it came to us kind of on a concept that the city provides the land. And when you read the proposal, it's really not. I mean, it's the city is going to have to design it, build it, run it, and Glenhurst provides the programming stuff. And so that's really the same concept that I think the task force, at least the consultant, felt, given that our community couldn't afford that. But there's a bigger problem with Glenhurst. And first of all, I want to say it's a terrific proposal, a beautiful location, but is it really going to work there? And for me, the biggest roadblock is the way that property came to us in the 1950s through the Cockshut family. And if you read the deed, it's pretty clear what it was intended to be used for, especially the bottom area. And it says right in the deed or the will, whatever it is, you know, garden space. And so I feel like we'd be breaching an undertaking with the Cockshut family that, you know, wasn't given centuries ago. It was only given about 7 years ago. And I know there may be legal techniques to get around that. That just doesn't, I don't find that of interest. But I think there's also other road stops on that. Down below, there's definitely going to be archaeological. That wouldn't be a surprise. There's floodplain considerations, there's zoning. And for me, it's the kind of traffic this would generate. And with the road access you'd have to build into it, because the current road would not be suitable. It'll dramatically impact the ambiance of what's up above in, I'll call it the main Glenhurst parcel. So, but that's my mind. I mean, I'm really focused on practical and realistic considerations. And so I just see so many hurdles to Glenhurst. I'm not sure it could ever be done, frankly. And, you know, the Laurier proposal is not perfect. I agree. It's, what priority does the city get? What priority do the arts groups get? And, you know, where are they going to store their equipment? And, you know, those are lots of issues. But in the scheme of things, I think Laurier is much more, the odds, I'm a gambling person, the odds are much higher. I would think that Laurier comes to fruition as well because of the fact that Laurier is a very large corporation as well. And like I said, I think Laurier is not perfect, doesn't meet all of what I think we will hope for and aspire to, but I think it's much more likely to become a reality and start meeting that need for a smaller performing arts facility. And whereas I think the other proposal, if I'm being dead honest, I don't think it'll ever get there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm too much of a pessimist. Maybe I'm too much of a realist. Could be. But I go with how I size it up. That's how I size it up. Thank you. So I'm quite happy to go ahead with the Laurier proposal and hope that that Glenhurst could become part of that and in some manner or fashion. But that's just my opinion.
I can't hear you.
Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Vanderstelt, and Mayor, if there's going to be an amendment, we'll come back to you.
Thank you, Chair Toski. Sorry for being optimistic, but I think we've already won. We're in a deficit situation as far as supplying a venue for the arts in Brantford. Being part of the arts community for a number of years, having had galleries downtown Brantford and in the Laurier building before it was Laurier building, taught me to get a full understanding that there are a lot of customers in Brantford that we're not servicing. It has always been distressing for everyone in the arts field. They've always expressed their opinions to me. Where is this? Where is that? Why is this a sport town? Where's the money? Where's the funding? Where's the support? When is this going to happen? How is this going to happen? Is everybody going to be included? And is my group going to be included? So these are all valid questions, as they should be. We already know we owe a debt of gratitude to all of the groups who've been working so hard to find their venues and struggles to keep their arts growing and beautiful as they are. So from my perspective, almost speaking to the deferral, I think I'll touch on it anyway. In my mind, because there are so many diverse customers that we're trying to serve, so many groups that we're trying to meet the needs of, I think it's worth a little bit longer of a discussion between these groups to find out how many more community partners we can bring on and how we can better meet all the needs. Even so far as to find out what additional funding opportunities can come from those partnerships. I think if we're thinking about serving all of our customers, all of the people who require these services, who desperately need these services, we should probably build the best hub we can. So I want to make sure that we're inclusive and we put the best brains together and come up with something that works for as many groups as possible. I don't want to see anybody left by the wayside. I don't want to see anybody frustrated by the process. I'd like to see a fair and open-minded process which brings the best of us into the room together and provides the best opportunity, not just for this year or next year, but that answers a history of not having done what we should have in Brantford. And that speaks to the future of where we can go. I don't think there's anything wrong in putting a bit more towards it when we have traditionally put so much towards other areas of interest, put it to you that way. So I'm looking forward to what Councillor Wall may be bringing forward and to just getting a little bit better of an idea of what kind of commitment we can see and what kind of funding opportunities we can receive. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Vanderstelt. I'm going to use my first my first speaking opportunity, just because I have some information to add to some of the questions that were raised. In terms of the dance versus theater, both are considered performing arts, and some of the dance groups were at our very initial consultations at the Sanderson Center. And I think that the reason for having them kind of as an anchor group is they're not there every day. They're usually there on weekends. They've got money. That's part of the business proposal, right? So you would have kind of your anchor performing theater, and Glenhurst had some of their anchor things as well. So there's pieces that you need to have to help run the operational costs, and I believe that that's what the thinking is behind that. You know, Lorna mentioned the overlap, so I mean, I think those things would have to be addressed, because I suspect a lot of the theater stuff is also on weekends. So with the overlap of probably mostly May and June is probably something that needs to be discussed. So that's my speaking opportunity for that. Mayor, did you want me to come back to you for an amendment?
I think Councillor Wall said he wanted to do anything before I said I wanted to do anything, so he should go first.
All right, okay, but if we go to the deferral, then we're going to stop conversation. So I was going to try and keep that going. So
Okay, well, if you want conversation to go, I'll throw it on the
I
floor.
would like to keep it going, please, Mayor.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, in the interests of encouraging and fostering further discussion, I'm happy to do an amendment, which the amendment is it's a fill in the gap or blank, which is, and that paragraph is a 2 or 3 where you're picking, that would be Laurier. So there, yeah, B recommends like the Laurier proposal, and that looking for a seconder to get that on the floor.
I'm looking, is there anyone that is willing to second that? Councillor Suss. All right. So
I'll second that, Madam Chair. Whoop. If I can qualify my second, I think we should have a discussion about that. It's awkward when procedure maybe prohibits discussion, but put it on the floor, have a discussion. If you don't like where it's going, don't vote for it. But I think we have to have discussion on both. And I'll tell you why I think that way. Am I taking up my first speaking opportunity? What I'm concerned about is a deferral. This gets kicked down the road constantly. At some point, we have to say, you know what, we're going to make a decision, because if it goes on and on and on and on, there'll be a different group on this screen 5 years from now talking about what we should do. So I think we've got to move forward in some form or fashion, and I understand where Josh is going, and it makes sense what he's saying, but this can go on in perpetuity, and it usually does, because people hate making decisions because it might be the wrong one. So I think we should have a good discussion about this, and if no one likes Laurier, then put the other one on there and see if it can make the grade. If it can, it can. If it can't, it can't. But I think we have to have that discussion and not just kick it down the road. We've done a lot of kicking down the road, and I think it's time to stand there and make a decision, right or wrong decision. That's my first opportunity, correct, Madam Chair?
Yeah. Yes, it is, Councillor. Thank you. And I just want to remind committee that again, amendments are always in order, and you can have amendments to amendments. I know this is not something we deal with a lot at this task force. So Councillor Suss is saying, let's get it on the floor and let's discuss it. And we're discussing this specific option, and that can include amendments if you're not happy with it, or as he says, you can turn it down or you can accept it. So I just want to remind folks that the procedure can get a little bit crazy, but we're trying to make sure we allow for as much discussion on this as possible. Next, we have Martin.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
One moment, please. Sorry, Martin, I've seen our clerk has popped up, which means she may be clarifying something I've said.
Sorry, yeah, I just wanted to provide clarification just to confirm, as the amendment's been moved on the floor, there are now 2 additional speaking opportunities to this amendment. So just so everyone's okay.
Thank you for clarifying that, Melanie. Thank you.
I'm with Councillor Sless on the fact that none of us want to be sitting here 5 years from now talking about the same things. My comment or question is, I really don't understand what is meant by Glenhurst and Laurier working together. I don't know what that means. And so I'd like more information on that. It makes it hard to pick one or the other when I don't know what the marriage of them working together even looks like. I don't understand
that. Thank you. I will go to Councillor Wall.
So I respect both Councillor Sless and Mayor Davis with this amendment, and I'm not trying to kick anything down the road. I think that this is the first time both of these presentations have been made before this committee, and I think that I am still going to be moving forward with a deferral no matter how this vote goes, simply because I think that both presenters should have an opportunity to be able to refine their presentation based upon the impact. This is not a time sensitive matter. This is a project that is going to take a long time to get off the ground. And I think there is room for collaboration. And ultimately, while the Laurier proposal may seem more feasible now versus the Glenhurst, or vice versa, maybe the Glenhurst one is the way to go. Maybe both are the way to go. In respect to the amendment for making a choice today, I don't feel that I have all the information. I still feel like there are unanswered questions from both presenters that I would like to have answered. And I'm hoping that as respective members of this committee have an opportunity to go out now after this discussion and speak with the partners and the shareholders and the associations that are going to be affected by this decision, that if in 1 month's time, 1 cycle's time, we have this conversation again, there will be no reason why we cannot make a decision, because everyone will have had an opportunity to have consulted with their respective partners. So I don't want to defeat this. I don't want to vote against this. I want more time to think about it. There's missing variables. There's too much missing.
Thank you, Councillor Wall. And just keeping in mind that also the option is to vote however you want on the, sorry, I'm trying to keep this fair, vote however you like on the amendment, and then you could defer now, you can defer the whole thing, but we're speaking just to the amendment at this point. So regardless of what amendments are accepted, there's still the opportunity to defer, to refer, to any of those things.
Sorry, if I can continue my speaking opportunity to this, or are you saying that I'm within my place to move a deferral now before this is voted on?
Well, it would be deferring an amendment, so we have to just speak on the amendment at this point.
So then a question for Melanie. If, for example, this goes to vote now and is defeated, then we can't move that same one without it being a motion to I'm not trying to mess things up. My intent was always to move a deferral to give us more time to make the decision. So when is that appropriate, Melanie?
So a deferral can be moved procedurally at any time. I will say, just as a point of procedure, as this had come up, because these individuals have registered as delegates to speak today to this item, if this item is deferred, they will still not be able to come back and speak to it, as they've already used their one delegation opportunity for this same item.
So they couldn't present again?
Not on this same item, no.
So then I would have to move an amendment to give them an opportunity to re-present?
If you were looking for, again, more information, they could provide additional, again, through the chair, information to the committee. Because they are both outside agencies, you would need to confirm that they did have that information to bring back to you. Again, I would put that to Sarah in terms of the things that they would bring back, but procedurally they've already delegated once on this item.
So it would come back in a memo of sorts, correct?
So some sort of additional.
Well, thank you, Melanie. I think here's how I'm going to play it then. With respect to this committee and its members and the amendment that's on the floor, we're either going to defer this or we're going to not. So I move an amendment for 1 cycle to give us an opportunity to get more information to make a more educated decision. If the committee supports it, then we'll defer it. If not, then we'll vote today.
All right, I can't go to, sorry, the 2 speakers that are on here, is it to the deferral? I've got councillors. Okay, so Melanie, make sure I'm on track here, because we've got amendments to amendments here.
So at this time, I think we're still discussing the amendment, as Councillor Wall has not formally moved his deferral. So we are still on the 2 speaking opportunities each for the amendment that Mayor Davis moved to.
And I still have another speaking opportunity, right?
And you still have, yeah, correct.
There we go.
Okay, great, thank you. I've got the right things written down here. Perfect, thank you. Councillor Sless.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are the 2 presenters still online? Yes?
Yes, all of the delegates are still in the attendee room.
Is it appropriate to bring them back on? If there's questions to be asked, they can be asked.
You're muted.
Can't hear you,
Councillor
you're muted.
My apologies. Procedurally, delegations cannot be brought back for questions.
can we waive the rules to have them come back?
I believe that's in order. Is that in order, Melanie?
Through the chair, you could ask with leave of the committee to bring back the presenters to
Make that request.
Well, I will make a request for leave of the committee to break the rules a little bit there and allow the presenters to come back into the room and respond to some questions. I see nodding. Is there anybody opposed? How about we go that way? Anybody opposed to that? Okay, great. Thank you. If we can bring them back in. And once they're here, Councillor Slush, you can go ahead.
I had no questions, but others do. So I thought, do you want to wait a month or do you want to ask them now? Like they're here. So they're here.
All right. So that's all right. Okay, then. Martin, go ahead.
I don't see Anna back on. Is she on?
There she is.
Okay. Yeah, my question is, I just don't understand what a Glenhurst and Laurier working together, what that actually means. Because we're talking about a facility on Market Street and a facility at the Glenhurst. We're talking about two different facilities. So I don't know what the working together means.
Is that directed at Anna? To get her?
I'll direct it at Anna and Heidi and Cameron.
what their perspectives are on it?
Yeah,
Okay.
what does that mean to them?
Thank you, Anna. If you want to go first, please.
Sure. I mean, I think that there's an opportunity if one of these facilities is chosen, and there's obviously opportunity, as there has been in the past, for us to work with Laurier, potentially use the spaces to support them and create sustainability around their space if their space is chosen. And in conversations with Heidi and Laurier, that would reciprocate if our build was created. And I mean, Heidi can speak for herself, but those are the conversations we've had. So I don't think that there is necessarily an opportunity for us to build a building together, because they have needs to be in the downtown core, we have needs to be on our site. So I don't think that the idea of working together is necessarily working together to build a building together. It's to support each other in the operations and the programming. But I don't want to put words in Heidi's mouth. I'll let her respond.
Thank you, Anna. Go ahead, Heidi.
I agree entirely with what Anna just said. I think it's about how we can work together with the program, with programming, with opportunities for marketing things together. It's that sort of thing to be building community, right? And the more that I think work together on and the partnership with Anna and Glenhurst, I think we could do things together that we couldn't do alone. Long and short of it.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. Councillor Sluss, I'm going to let you use the rest of your time, since you really were just asking the presenters to come back on. Go ahead. Oh, you're on mute.
I just have two, and they're both for Laurier. I've heard this afternoon that your price is too high. This doesn't work. How low can you go and still stay in business?
Excellent question. So we can rerun some numbers, but the thing that I think would be, I think, a really great thing to explore is to be thinking about grants that actually already exist, that actually could allow those theater groups in particular, music groups, to find ways that if, for example, we can't go down too much below 500 for past a certain number of days in a year, and I think we're very open to thinking about certain numbers of the day below 500. But if there's that pressure point where we actually have to do that, there's more community need than what we are able to do without running in the red, then I think there's some real opportunities to be thinking about partnership with other organizations that could provide a subsidy to those groups. Because the number one thing is to be building community through actually allowing people to come together and do great work together in the creative sphere. So that's the goal, is to make that happen. We do have other spaces, by the way, on campus that could also be seen as part of a larger ecosystem, that we might also be able to offer smaller venues that that could be perhaps part of a suite of options, depending on what the need is that is offered at a lower rate. There's just to let you know what I'm talking about. There is a small stage in the lower level of One Market, and there's also a classroom in the Research Academic Center that has a green room. And it's not a great place during the school year because it's a classroom as well, but it may also be able to complement what is available, especially during that March through July period, where it's primarily dance focused, in order to help us keep in the black.
Okay, and storage space. I think that's an issue for a number of the groups. Are you short of storage space as well?
We have a lot of storage space in One Market. That's there is a lot of storage space. I mean, I say that because, of course, so much of it is yet to be developed. There is a tremendous amount, and there's actually quite a bit that isn't that far away from the 3 movie theaters where they currently are. Okay,
and then I guess I'm thinking now of the theater groups. For the rehearsals.
If you can just wrap this up, thanks.
Okay,
thanks.
I'll wrap it up right after these 12 questions then. Thanks, Madam Chair. No, I just have one more. For rehearsal space, can there be a better price on rehearsal space?
We can certainly take that back and let you know. I don't know, but it may also be the case that one of the other places would be a better spot to do certain kinds of rehearsal. If it's dress rehearsal, again, this is what we put forward is a pro forma business case that makes sense to us on running the numbers first and doing a lot of work. But we are very open to hearing from the community that say 500 we can't do for a certain group. We could do that for this. I would very much like to see some of the finer points of our proposal actually be worked out with community, right? So if it's a back and forth a little bit, is that yes, we find out what, for example, we can do after this architectural design firm comes back with the real numbers, and then we work out the business plan together to ensure that as many, as was mentioned here before, as many groups who want and need to use that space can. I take the mayor's point that this can't probably fit everybody's needs, but this is adding something that isn't currently there that actually could help build perhaps those next steps, right? Those other venues, the other opportunities for building a cultural hub, a destination for arts in the downtown.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and I'm going to use my turn. And Martin, I see your hands up, but you've had 2 full speaking opportunities on this one. So I procedurally, I'm looking at this, and we're trying to get the best result for everyone. And I don't see any way, or any clean way, at least, for us to mandate somehow that these 2 groups work together. I think we have to choose A or B. We have to pick one or the other, and then have those discussions. Maybe we can amend to add that, but that would be where maybe a deferral would be coming in. But I don't know that there's any clean or possible way, particularly when nobody really knows what that means, and it would be up to the 2 providers who both have said that they're willing to work together. But I think a primary decision has to be made. It doesn't mean things can't change down the road, but I don't know how we send this away just saying, we don't pick anybody and go away and work together and tell us what you think. So Councillor Wall, your second time, please.
Yes, probably my 12th time, but I appreciate your patience.
Second on this one.
Yes, okay. Did either presenter want an opportunity to clarify or rebut any of the statements that were made here, if we're going to vote on this today?
I go ahead, Anna. I see your hand up.
I would just want to mention, I know Mayor Davis has voiced some concerns about the build, and I just want to clarify that when this proposal was created by Glenhurst, under no circumstances did we underestimate the amount of, I guess, forward thinking that our proposal would be creating. Forward thinking is the wrong word, but this is a big ask. It's a big build, and it would change the dynamic of arts and culture in Brantford in a very, very big way. So as much as I appreciate Mayor Davis's concerns about the build, I think that Heidi's proposal and Gloria's proposal will do an amazing job at providing short-term relief to our problem. And I have no doubt in my mind that they will do an amazing job at it. What Glenhurst is proposing is not a short-term proposal. This is a long-term vision for creating a central location for arts and culture, expanding Glenhurst in a very progressive way. So, and I know it's a hard pill to swallow for sure, because it would be a lot of money, but it really is the difference between a short-term solution and a long-term plan. And so I understand and I appreciate the concerns that staff brought forward, as I mentioned, some of the concerns that Mayor Davis brought forward about the building, but I honestly don't see it like the deed as an example. I mean, I have, for the deed, which is a very poorly written document, I have 3 other documents to support building, right? So, these are all, now we're in the weeds, right? But those are, so I think that if the vision for Brantford, and this is what we're talking about here, is are we looking at a short-term vision or a long-term vision? And that's, I think, the decision that needs to be kind of made today is are we taking a bold step to do something that's really, really not just for the arts community, because our proposal is much
Point of
bigger
order,
than that.
Madam Chair. I don't like to stifle debate, but this is answer a question. This is now getting into debate. Just procedurally,
That's fair, Mayor. That is correct, Anna. It's we've gone beyond the answering of the question.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. I
have more questions. I still have time.
Sorry, you do. You have a minute. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to ask my 2 questions, then hopefully you guys can answer them. The first was, and this is a bold question, but I'm asking you both. In the event that this doesn't go through, and you guys have both already done so much work on this, do either organization think that you will end up pursuing this either way? That's the first question. The second is, if one or the other is chosen today, what is the earliest that you think that you would have something up and running? And then the final question was based on my deferral that I was considering moving, which may not end up happening now. Do either of you want me to move that deferral? Those are the questions I would like answers to.
All right, we don't have much time left, so succinctly as possible, Heidi, go ahead.
I'll give it a shot. So first of all, can I quickly answer the question? Is there any point of mistaken understanding or whatever? Quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, just to make sure, and I think you already mentioned this, Councillor Antosky, but indeed, music and theater is very much a part of what we want, as well as other things that we saw in the feasibility study, like esports competitions, etc. So it's a whole thing. It's just making sure that we have enough time allotted to things that will allow us to offer subsidized rates. So, question: will we pursue it either way? We might be able to do a part of it. It will take much, much longer. So that's, I think it's with partnership that we'll actually will be able to have access to the funds that would allow us to get that 5 to 10 million. Sorry, I wish it was only 1,000. So, and probably it will probably be focused, I would guess, on the art house movie theater, because that is something that is far less expensive capital wise. And it allows us to be offering something to the community and students. So don't know, but that would be my guess. Timing, if this were to go ahead, usually those architectural things take about 6 months to do. So if that's the case, then at that point, we could start actually finding funds. So I would guess that the earliest that we could probably have something up and running would be 2 years. Okay, ballparky. Don't hold me to that, but that's seeing other projects at Laurier. 2 years is a good window if you're starting from where we're at now to when you have something. Deferral. If it were just 30 days from now and we came back and made a decision, fine, but I really would like to know one way or the other as well, because it's going to take 2 years, right? So
Okay.
I think I answered your questions.
Thank you, Heidi. Anna?
This project isn't something that we would pursue if the city was not involved, for obvious reasons, because we're on city property. And yeah, I would prefer a decision be made sooner than later. Obviously, we've been in this for a little bit longer than Laurier, so we would like a decision soon.
All right, thank you. So we have a tabled deferral. And I see no further speakers on the amendment. Did you want me to come? Thank you, Melanie. You see me struggling with the whole, a deferral on an amendment. Thank you.
So where I'm at is we still have Mayor Davis's amendment on the floor. Nothing would prevent you from then moving a deferral, but there has been no deferral moved formally. So you would, as it stands right now, be at the vote on Mayor Davis's amendment, or you could have someone move a deferral and that amendment would go with the deferral as a pending amendment.
Okay, so Councillor Walsh, we've got that tabled. Do you want me to?
No, I'm gonna, whatever, take it away. And if a member of this committee would like to move a deferral.
Okay, all right, so on the amendment, I see no further speakers. Melanie, can you put the amendment up so everyone is clear now after all of that discussion what we're voting on? And it is to fill in the blank to put Laurier as the provider to continue down the path with.
Yep, just give me 1 second here. My e-scribe is being a little bit slow.
Thank you. Give everybody a second to take a peek at that.
Madam Chair, while this is going up, can I have a couple of minutes or 30 seconds?
No, Councillor Sless.
Well, I think it's important. I really do.
No.
The committee is not used to council's processes. What we're voting on today simply is a recommendation to city council. We're not approving anything. We're approving something to go to city council to be discussed and either rejected or approved at that level. So just so people are clear that we're not approving something that is going to get built tomorrow. We're approving something to go to city council.
Thank you.
Just clearing it up.
Thank you for that point of clarification. Thank you, Councillor Sless. Yes, we are dealing with a lot of things here today that we haven't dealt with on this task force. All right, so that's up there. The only change that you will see is the blank filled in. Right there it is. So we will take the vote for all in favor for that amendment, on the amendment only. 1, 2, okay, wait, we got some slow moving hands here. All right, I think that passes. Melanie, do you, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sarah, did you have your hand up yet?
Sorry, can everybody put their hands up just clearly in frame?
Yeah, they've been going up and down, so sorry. Vern, I don't have, okay, and Martin, okay.
So you have a vote here of 7. I have Councillor Antosky 1, Mayor Davis 2, Kara 3, Glenn 4. Councillor Sless, is your hand up? Councillor Sless 5, Rick 6, and Sarah 7.
All right.
So that is
I think Vern might have had his hand up partially on the screen too.
Did you? Okay. Vern.
Perfect.
Thank you. All right, so that passes. Thank you, everybody, for going through that. We only have one consent item today, and that that is the minutes.
Sorry, Councillor Antosky, not to
Oh, sorry, the
derail
main
you.
motion. Sorry, my apologies.
No worries.
Thank you. I've got so many notes here of firsts and seconds. Okay, so now that was the vote on the amendment. So we go back to the main motion now. All in favor, please? Which is passing, which is voting on it as amended, folks. So all in favor? And just leave your hand up until Melanie calls your name, and that way we'll be sure we capture everybody.
So I've got Councillor Antosky as 1, Mayor Davis as 2, Kara as 3, Glenn as 4, Councillor Celeste as 5, Rick as 6, Vern as 7, and Sarah as 8. So that is carried.
Okay, thank you. All righty, then, thank you for that. So we've got consent items. I need a mover to put the minutes on the floor. Moved by Councillor Wall, thank you, and a seconder. I think that was Councillor Sluss I saw, sorry. And are there any errors or omissions on the minutes? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please. Okay, that passes. Thank you. There are no resolutions for today. There are no notices of motion for today. I want to thank everyone for their participation. I know there's been a lot of work all the way along with this. And as Councillor Sluss pointed out, this is not completing anything. This is moving one step further. And I think we're closer than we've ever been, regardless of how this turns out. And you know, we will continue to speak on this. Do you have a closing comment, Councillor Wall?
If I may.
Go ahead.
I mean, the motion we just passed, if passed at council, is the disbandment of the committee. So this would be our last meeting.
It is, because the mandate at that point would be complete unless the committee wanted to amend something, but at this point.
Oh, go ahead, sorry. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone on this committee. I mean, it was a pleasure to work with all of you. You're all just incredible human beings, and I know that this isn't the end of us working together, but if it's the end of this committee, it's been a sincere pleasure.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for your time and for your input. And let's we'll consider we'll continue the conversations as this moves forward. And if you have any questions, you know, as how things are going, please reach out to me. Thank you, everybody, and have a good afternoon.